Hello there and welcome to Amiga Reviews with me, the eager Amiga Eagle. Try saying that 10 times fast. Today I'm going to be looking at Body Blows, one of the highest profile games on the Amiga in its attempt to become a Street Fighter killer. Back in the early 1990s, Street Fighter 2 was big news. Arguably one of the most popular games of all time and definitely one of the best fighting games ever to hit the arcade. Following up from the decidedly mediocre Street Fighter from 1987, Street Fighter 2 rewrote the rulebook when it came to one-on-one tournament fighters. It wasn't long before Capcom's classic brawler started to appear on the home consoles, and in 1992 it landed on the Super Nintendo, standing alongside Nintendo's own mascot as being one of the main reasons to buy an SNES at the time. As imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, or more likely, the easiest way to cash in on an existing success, many other games companies started to produce their own fighting games in an attempt to jump onto the spin-kicking, fireball-throwing bandwagon. I had the dubious accolade of owning the Amiga version of Street Fighter 2, and it has to be said that I found it lacking. In those days, most home conversions merely served as a reminder of their arcade counterparts, as the hardware available to the at-home gamer was nowhere near as powerful. However, having played the Super Nintendo version, I came to realise that the Amiga version was basically awful. It certainly wasn't the worst version of Street Fighter 2 I had played, but it was nowhere near the best. Street Fighter 2 was not alone in this regard, as apart from a few notable exceptions such as IK Plus and Full Contact, most fighting games on the Amiga were very subpar. Team 17 must have discovered this too, and embarked to replicate the playability, graphics and speed of Capcom's seminal fighter with the release of Body Blows in 1993. Team 17 took the formula directly from Street Fighter 2, whilst trying to work around the Amiga's inherent handicaps, such as using a disc-operated system, only having one button for moves, and limited resources when compared to dedicated games consoles. So, the burning question is, did it work? Overall, the gameplay is not too bad in Body Blows, given the fact that execution of the moves is severely hampered by the lack of buttons available. One of the tactics that Body Blows was sold under was that Team 17 had decided to do away with the complex inputs for special moves, something that Street Fighter players were still trying to get to grips with. No quarter circles here, or charging backwards or downwards, and certainly no full circle moves. All moves were done by pressing a direction and the fire button, and special moves are done by either holding diagonally up left or up right with a button press, or by holding the fire button down for a few seconds. This certainly reduced the learning curve, and also allowed a much more even playing field, meaning that total newbies could pick up and play the game almost immediately. The main issue here was that the experience is much less in depth. There's no combo system to speak of, no dizzying of opponents, knockdowns happen after a certain amount of hits, and there are no throws. The other issue attached to this is the computer AI. While it does utilise the full roster of moves available to each character, it does so in a very random method. An identical fighting strategy could be applied to every character and the effect would be the same. This also holds true for the player. Simply stabbing at a direction and mashing the button is a valid way of playing Body Blows, which for my money does not result in a very rewarding player experience. Much of this is down to the moveset. With 6 buttons, each Street Fighter 2 character has an average of over 30 moves each, while the characters in Body Blows are only restricted to around 10. With this in mind, it's easy to understand why the bouts seem so random. It's because they don't have the repertoire available to be individual. The moves are also weighted to the computer's advantage, as virtually all of their special moves knock you over, whilst the player's special moves merely knock the computer back a small amount. Spamming moves will win over strategy, as pushing the opponent into the corner and hitting them with the same 1 or 2 basic moves is the best way to win. The charging special moves are basically useless, as you are completely unable to move while charging, and they are cancelled if you are hit or have to block, yet the computer characters can pull these off without the rigmarole of charging at all. Team 17 must have realised that move spamming was going to be an integral part of playing the game, as they also included a feature known as Mercy, where as soon as the character is knocked down, the fire button effectively locks, disabling any moves until the character is standing again. Overall, The moves that the characters can do are interesting, but ultimately generic and unfulfilling, as you cannot come up with a signature combo or move that others cannot also execute. Amiga graphics on the whole are quite good, and Body Blows is no exception. The backgrounds are colourful and well conceived, such as Yitu's temple or Ninja's shrine, although the complete lack of parallax scrolling and very minimal animation leaves them looking rather flat. The shading between colours is very basic and looks like it has been drawn in deluxe paint, lacking any real depth and content. This was changed in the AGA version, something that we'll look into later. The characters themselves are well drawn, albeit a little bland and stereotypical. There is nothing here that we have not seen before. The animation of the characters is quite good, although like the moves, it is easy to see that they have taken a lot of shortcuts to make them all fit onto the 4 discs that make up the game. The sparring animations are restricted to 2 frames per character, and a lot of the animation feels like there has been a fair bit of copy-pasting in the paint package that they used to create the characters. It's not as good as Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat, but it's nowhere near as bad as something like Dangerous Streets. The characters themselves are average fighting game additions, although they are not the sort that will be remembered in the same way as that other game. Generic names like Nick and Maria are not going to stick in the memory for very long. There are a total of 12 characters in Body Blows, 2 of which are boss characters which cannot be selected normally, but you can play as one of them using a cheat code. They have covered all of the bases here: a token female character, a token ninja, 2 characters who fight exactly the same, a boxer, despite the fact he can also kick, and a wrestler, although this is quite a luxury in a game with no throws. The strange thing for me is that the main boss character at the end of the game is nothing special at first. He is just a muscular jock in a tank top and jogging bottoms, not exactly a Bison, Goro or Geese Howard. His only party piece is that when you beat him, shock, horror and spoiler alert, he reveals himself as a shameless Terminator ripoff. A big problem with the characters in Body Blows is that rather than having personalities, they are more defined by their character flaws. Yitu is too fast, Ninja is too easy, Cossack is too powerful, and Doug is cheap as hell. There was a strange fad in the 90s where some fighting games would only let you pick from a small selection of the entire cast in one-player mode, such as Fatal Fury and Art of Fighting, and Body Blows seem to have gone this route too. You could only pick from 4 of the 12 characters for one-player mode. Dan and Nick are clones, a la Ken and Ryu, which really means that there are only 3 different characters to choose from. All of the main player characters have projectiles, although because of the limiting charge move, you'll find that you hardly use them. The Amiga was well known for its sound capability, and this is one area where Body Blows does very well. Each stage has a poppy 90s influenced music track, which sets the mood for the stage quite well, although the characters tend to share stages, so they don't have their own signature track. The Amiga was also famous for its sampling capability, and this is quite evident in the title music, reminding me of games such as Xenon 2 Mega Blast and Gods. Sampling has another interesting angle, as quite a few of the sound effects and speech have been blatantly ripped from other sources.
Girls, here I come!
Special technique. Special technique of shadow boxing.
Bolo.
These most likely went under the radar, as the gaming industry was nothing like the gargantuan sprawling monster it is today, or claiming for copyright infringement just wasn't worth the time. There are plenty of other games in the Amiga's library that are guilty of this too. Interestingly, a few months after the game's initial release, an update became available that tweaked some of the aspects of the gameplay, including making the game slightly faster, making all non-boss characters selectable in one-player mode, and an option to turn off the mercy function. In order to get this update, you had to own the original retail version of the game and send your boot disc back to Team 17 along with a fee. As this was before the days of the internet, I never found out about this and continued with the version that I had, blissfully unaware that the improved version was waiting for me. Following the release of the sequel, Ultimate Body Blows, Team 17 also released a version of the original Body Blows for the AGA, or Advanced Graphics Architecture Amigas, such as the 1200 and 4000. This included further enhancements such as completely redrawn backgrounds as well as some characters, and also further gameplay improvements which I may cover in a future video. All in all, Body Blows wasn't a bad addition to the Amiga library and set the standard for other fighting games that followed it, such as Shadow Fighter and Elfmania. However, its average characters, limited gameplay and mediocre presentations means that it was not assured the success that many more mainstream fighting games enjoyed on the consoles. But if you fancy something a bit different, it's a decent distraction for an hour or so, but it won't be long before you return to Hadoukens, Sonic Booms and spinning bird kicks. Thanks for watching, I'm the eager Amiga Eagle. See you next game!